We have a breaking news prophecy update for you regarding Iran coming up next. This is Dana with the Wisdom Calls channel and whatyourpastornevertoldyou.com, helping you understand biblical prophecies coming to pass right in front of our eyes. This story is developing and appears to be escalating even as I'm filming this video. Recently, on September 14th, Iran attacked oil refineries in Saudi Arabia. According to Haaretz, an Israeli newspaper, they accomplished their military goals with incredible precision. And according to Reuters, quote, Iran has not drawn back to a less threatening military posture. In fact, Reuters quoted Vice Admiral Jim Malloy, commander of the U.S. Navy's Bahrain-based Fifth Fleet, who said in an interview, quote, I don't believe they're drawing back at all, unquote. According to an article published at foreignpolicy.com, quote, satellite images provided by the U.S. government and the private satellite company Digital Globe revealed a highly coordinated and diligently planned strike that bypassed the detection and defense mechanisms. The attack struck at least 17 individual points of impact at the Abqaiq facilities, and all 12 of the dome-shaped oil separation tanks were branded with bullseye craters, unquote. Saudi Arabia's foreign minister was also quoted by Reuters as saying, we want to avoid war, but at the same time, we have to signal to the Iranians that your behavior cannot continue, unquote. The Saudis are hoping to gain international support as they wrestle with how to address with the aggression that temporarily crippled 5% of the global production of oil. With this backstory in mind, we get to today's breaking story. On Tuesday of this week, peaceful protests began in Baghdad, protesting the current government in Iraq. Since Tuesday, protests have erupted in other cities across Iraq. The Iraqi government began using tear gas and even live fire. Quote, up to 50 demonstrators may have been killed and thousands injured, unquote, according to the Jerusalem Post. When you read the major news outlets, it's unclear as to the cause of the rallies. Some news agencies speculate it has to do with low wages and a corrupt government. The UN has expressed concern over the violence against the protesters, stating, we call on the Iraqi government to allow people to freely exercise their rights to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly. On Twitter, protesters and bloggers in the region, however, are calling the Iraqi government of Abdullah Mahdi a puppet government for Iran. They say instead that Iranian forces are the ones violently attacking protesters with live fire. Mahdi, the prime minister of Iraq, has deep connections with the Iranian regime. Heshmat Alavi, who is a contributor for The Hill, Forbes, and The Federalist, has been tweeting updated images, videos, along with the rising death toll in Iraq. He also suggests that it is Iran who's at the heart of this violent suppression of the protests. What Heshmat and others on Twitter have been reporting, even though it's not being confirmed by the mainstream media, has been verified by people on the ground in the region. Iran's involvement in Iraq runs deep, especially through the support it generously provides to the Shiite militia, unquote, a Federalist article stated. Later in the article, Heshmat reveals Iran's prominent status in the Middle East. Quote, Iran-backed proxy militias are seen roaming large swaths of western Iraq and southern Syria, leading to the Euphrates River, an important waterway that snakes from the country's northwest to the southeast into Iraq, unquote. Then he reported this stunner, quote, establishing a land bridge linking Tehran to the Mediterranean has been a long-sought objective for Tehran. It would provide a corridor enabling Tehran to send arms and logistics to the Syrian regime and Lebanese Hezbollah, giving the regime unprecedented power and influence, unquote. What does all of this have to do with Bible prophecy? If you haven't seen my video on the future significance of Daniel 8, I'm going to link to it here. For those who are taught that Daniel 8 was already fulfilled with Alexander the Great, there are both historical and, more importantly, biblical problems with this view. Since these topics are covered in detail in some of my other videos, we're going to give just the abridged version here. Firstly, the angel Gabriel says 3 times in Daniel that the vision given to him in Daniel chapter 8 refers to the end. I'm going to play a short video clip for you here to give you an idea of the message in the vision that Daniel received so that we can begin to put the pieces together as to what we may be seeing right in front of our eyes.
I saw myself in the citadel of Susa, in the province of Elam, beside the Ulai Canal. I looked up, and there before me was a ram with 2 horns standing beside the canal. And the horns were long, but one of the horns was longer than the other, but grew up later. I watched the ram as it charged towards the west, and the north, and the south. No animal could stand against it, and none could rescue from its power. It did as it pleased and became great. As I was thinking about this, suddenly a goat with a prominent horn between its eyes came from the west, crossing the whole earth without touching the ground. It came toward the 2-horned ram I had seen standing beside the canal and charged at it in great rage. I saw it attack the ram furiously, striking the ram and shattering its 2 horns. The ram was powerless to stand against it. The goat knocked it to the ground and trampled on it, and none could rescue the ram from its power. The shaggy goat is the king of Yavan, and the large horn between its eyes is the first king.
So in that little video, we saw a summary of the beginning part of Daniel 8, which Gabriel tells Daniel is for the last days. The ram represents an empire from the region we know today as Iran. We are told the ram charged to the west and the north and the south. No animal could stand against it, and none could rescue from its power. It did as it pleased and became great. So we're told that in the last days there will be an empire originating in the old Persian land, which is now Iran, and it will charge to the west, north, and south, just as we see Iran doing today. That empire did as it pleased and became great. How will we know if what we're seeing today is actually the fulfillment of Daniel chapter 8? If we see Iran being successful in taking over the Middle East, that will be confirmation. As stated earlier, Iran already has a presence through proxies all the way to Lebanon. So if Iran doesn't fulfill this prophecy at this time, we're going to look for Iran or whatever countries in that vicinity of where current Iran is today to fulfill it in the future. But if the current Iranian regime is the ram of Daniel 8, we will then see, after it takes over large portions of the Middle East, we will then see what the Bible calls the first king, which comes from the region of Yavan. Most translations will say that this is Greece, and Greece did occupy this region for a period of time, but it gets its name Yavan from Noah's grandson who settled in the area of modern Turkey. So if we see a prosperous, victorious, conquering Iran, followed by a response from Turkey, there's a strong possibility that we're actually witnessing Daniel 8 in our lifetime. If you would like a more thorough study on the biblical and historical reasons why many of us think Daniel 8 is yet future, subscribe to this channel because I have a video almost finished that will cover in detail this very subject. Additionally, I have a video coming soon that will cover 66 facts the Bible gives us about the Antichrist. I believe you're going to find that eye-opening. Remember, we have to compare whatever we're seeing and hearing with the biblical sources and not just follow the hype, especially online. If you're new, I encourage you to subscribe, and as a gift for you, I want to offer you my free End Times Masterclass. It's 8 of my best end times videos talking about the signs leading up to the return of Christ, and it's my gift for you. To receive the gift, all you do is go to my website, whatyourpastornevertoldyou.com, and enter your email, and I'll send the link directly to you. Also, stick around because after this video, I have a couple more queued up and ready to go for you. As always, this has been Dana with the Wisdom Calls channel and whatyourpastornevertoldyou.com, helping you to understand Bible prophecy coming to pass right in front of our eyes. Have a blessed day.